Thank you. Hi, everyone, and wake up. Everyone's looking a bit flat, so we'll see if we can get some energy going. So we're going to tell you how to get an interview, and really, the bare bones of this talk is just tailoring what you can do. So you've got to work out what your skills and experience are and what you're looking for yourself, and then we'll just talk about how you sell yourself through the application process in the best way. So, first of all, there we go, it is working. So, you've got to match your skills to what the advert says. Everyone overthinks this step, you look for a job, you talk yourself out of it. Everyone's had that experience. If you match 3 or 4 things that they're saying that they're looking for, click apply. If there's another one that you're not sure about and you're not perfect, don't be so modest. If you only get in life what you ask for, click apply. If it's a good fit and you've got a chance, apply for the job. The next bit is what we're going to be doing most of the talk on, though. Don't mess it up. We're going to come up with a whole load of tips for this, because over the years, working with all kinds of companies and seeing all kinds of applications, we have seen it all. Our eyes roll regularly where you think you're probably a good candidate, but meh, you've put us off. Put a bit of an effort in to improve your chances, and we're going to now go straight into the advice. This is the dumbest thing in the world, and we see it all the time. If you're job hunting and you're on your phone, it is really easy, I know it sounds stupid, but to apply for the wrong job. Now, you won't hear anything, which is kind of normal if you don't get an interview, but you won't hear from me or from anyone else saying, are you sure about this? It looks like you've applied for the wrong job. So not only have you applied for the wrong job, but you haven't applied for the job you want. And if you're skeptical about this, we have this conversation on a weekly basis. So, dumbest thing in the world, but double check. If you have applied for it and you've got an account with whichever job board you're using, it will be in there. If you're not sure, you can always contact the company and say, have you received my application? Over to you.
Over to me. Okay, so you've applied for the right job, in theory, and you need to have a think about tailoring and personalising your application for the role that you're applying for. So when I'm looking through CVs, I'm not the hiring manager, I'm an HR person. I've got, say, 20, 30 CVs to work through. I want to see that you know which job you've applied for, and I want to see that you fit the criteria for that job. If you're just sending out a standard CV to every single role, how am I going to shortlist you for that role? I need to see that you've got the skills for that particular role. So tailor your CV or online application for that role. One of the best ways of doing that is to pick out keywords. So when you're looking at a job advert or a job description, if they want someone with customer service experience, make sure you've got that in your CV, because that will jump out at me. If you are applying for a lot of different roles and you've got the opportunity to do a cover letter, as we say here, keep your CV standard, but make sure your cover letter fits to the role that you're applying for. If I want a salesperson and your CV says, I'm really interested in working in marketing, am I going to shortlist you for an interview? No. Make sure you tailor it for the role that you're applying for. Does that make sense? Loads of people are either sloppy or lazy or will just send out a generic CV. When you've got loads to look through, that really shows, and I'm going to pick the people that have made the effort to tailor it to that role. So it's worth doing that for every job that you apply for. I appreciate it's time consuming, but you would more likely to make a shortlist.
Keyword searches and software.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the keyword searches again. A lot of companies, including myself, will use an automated tracker for applicants. So if you do include keywords in your CV and covering letter, that software picks them out as well. So if you're applying for customer services, use that word in your application, and it's more likely to come to the top of the pile. If you're applying for a sales job, use the keywords like account management. If you're applying for a PHP developer role, I want to see PHP in there, code, things that are relevant to the job, and any automated software, particularly on the job boards at the moment, will put you to the top of the pile. So it's worth picking up keywords and making sure they're somewhere in your application. Covering letters. Does anybody do covering letters? Put your hands up.
Good.
Okay, that's not bad actually. Keep doing them. If you've got a standard CV, use a cover letter as part of the application. Not all job boards will let you do it, and that's absolutely fine. I get that. But if you've got the opportunity to, it's really worth putting the effort into a cover letter. It's a summary of why you should be considered for that role. And it will save me having to read through a massive CV if I can see a cover letter that has 2 examples of how you can do that role or your experience, and I'll think, oh yeah, look, this person's done this person's done this, I'll keep reading. Does that make sense? If it's not there, it's harder work for me. And about 50% of you put your hand up. So you will stand out compared to the people that didn't put their hand up for a cover letter. It shows me that you're interested, that you've put the effort in, and that you've put some thought into that cover letter as to how you fit that job role. So you will stand out over the people that don't put that effort in. It's a really competitive market, so you need to put the work in. And it's a chance to sell yourself. It highlights why you're a great candidate in more detail. And again, you know, it's, you stand out against other people. Your turn.
Okay. Spelling and grammar, again, this is nuts and bolts stuff. But first impressions, if somebody, managers don't like recruitment. Let's skip to the end. Managers do not like screening CVs. From the other side of the table, you think, oh God, I've got to find an hour every single week to look through all of these strangers' incredibly boring CVs. I just want to hire someone and make all of this stop. First impressions, if you're in that kind of mood to start with, if you're not enthusiastic about recruiting, are this is annoying. This person can't even be bothered to spell Brighton. I saw that the other day correctly. So, you know, run through a spell check. It doesn't always work. There's the obvious examples up there as well. If you don't know how the word is spelled, you're not going to be really assisted by a spell checker. It is incredibly important if the job is talking about attention to detail. The number of people, the number of conversations we've had with managers at all kinds of different companies who've said, good candidate, but, and it's this sort of dumb mistake that puts them off. You may have this amazing track record, and for whatever reason, you've just made one spelling mistake in your CV, and that's why you're not getting the interview. It could be something as simple as that. If you really want to belt and braces the whole thing, then get somebody else to proofread it. If you don't have time for that, print it out, look through it yourself. Fresh pair of eyes on a bit of paper always helps. And the other thing that absolutely kills me is waffle and jargon. Everyone working in their company gets used to the language you use in that company. When you're outside that bubble, it's annoying. It really is. People don't like to feel stupid. That includes the people looking at your CVs. If they look through it and you're trying to impress them with your experience of X, Y, and Z, and we don't understand what X, Y, and Z could possibly mean, then we just think, meh. We have no idea who you are. You're just a complete stranger, after all. You may be putting it in because you're just used to that sort of language, or you think it's a bit of jargon that's sort of well-known in the industry, or you're trying to impress people, but try not to do it. It can be very, very frustrating. I'm going to pass you back over to Melissa for the next bit.
Okay.
5 minutes.
So you already know the rules I would expect of, doing a CV. Please no more than 2 pages. I've got a lot to look through, and 6-page CVs, I haven't got the time to look at it. It needs to be quite short and concise and no more than 2 pages. Does anybody here use the Microsoft templates for doing CVs? Good. Fantastic. Yeah, it's really dull. And I've put that in bold for a reason, looking through loads and loads of CVs that are identical. So try and make your CV stand out. Try not to use the standard templates in Microsoft. And when you are writing your CV, using the bold, where I've put really dull, on the key points that you want to get across, so your experience or anything else, it jumps out at me. So again, using back to keywords and highlighting in bold, because I'm skimming through a CV, it will jump out. List of jobs, text, and no spacing. So chunks of paragraphs are really difficult to read. small print is really difficult to read when you're skimming through piles and piles of CV. So keep it well spaced, bullet points, and not big chunky paragraphs. Just left university, so any grads in here? Okay, it's really difficult, isn't it? What do you put in your CV? I still want to know about your qualifications, any work experience you've got, no matter how irrelevant you think it is to what you're applying for. I'd like to see some evidence of your work in order to shortlist you. And then things like team working at university can go in there as well. Every employer is looking for a good team player, so make sure you include that. Don't just leave it small, put as much in there, even though you haven't got that much experience. Start off with as much as you can. And then the opposite. So have we got people here who could, in fact, do a 6-page CV based on their experience? Yeah, okay. So think about relevance. What's relevant to the job you're applying for? Is the job you did in a coffee shop 20 years ago relevant to what you're applying for now? Probably not. We like to see employers and dates, but don't include things that aren't relevant, or just put a bullet point. We don't need a whole paragraph about that job. And what type of company are you applying for? There is a huge difference between the presentation for a lively startup. They like to see creativity, colour. You can find little logos to put down the side where you've got little mouses and, you know, people put their favourite pets on there and random things like that. That's, for a startup, that's great. Would that work with Southern Water, Brighton and Hove Council? Probably not. A little bit more formal and a little bit more corporate. So think creatively, think about how to get your message across, but also tailor it to the type of company that you're applying for. Some things don't work with different company cultures. And I want to find out about you. So it's not all about work, is it? Yes, I want to see that you've got the right experience, that you've thought about the job, and that you could do it. But I want something interesting about you that doesn't necessarily involve work. Humour is always great. Again, measure your audience. Maybe it won't always work in the corporate world. So put something in there about you. I want to know if you're a dog lover. I want to know what you get up to in your spare time. It gives me an overall picture of the type of person that I'm hiring. Culture is really, really important. Yep, link to your social media accounts. That helps me find out a little bit more about you if you want to. If you don't want to, clearly don't. But be warned. If I do decide to look at your social media accounts and I see things on there that won't fit with the company culture, I may think twice. So, but that's just general everything you do now. Be careful about your settings and what's on show to the public. And I will check your LinkedIn profile. Who has got an up-to-date LinkedIn profile? Fantastic. Keep it up to date. I cross-reference it against CVs. It's a really good way to catch people out if they are not telling the truth on certain jobs or length of time. So keep the two together. Most hiring managers and recruiters will check out your LinkedIn page as well, and people who've referenced you on there. So keep that up to date. Your turn?
Yeah, sure. And just on the last point on social media, I think as a general piece of advice, you have to assume that quite a lot of people, I mean, not just us, we will look at LinkedIn, we will check your LinkedIn page to make sure you're telling the truth, because we've had a number of people that have exaggerated their career history and they haven't, for whatever reason, on LinkedIn. You have to assume that you're sending off your CV to all of these people. They might have a cheeky look at you on Facebook. It is sometimes sort of a part of the standard recruitment process for certain companies, but otherwise it's just human nature. Do your research. It drives us crazy, again, when we think that's a great CV and we contact the person and they go, what's that company do? And you think, come on, this is your opportunity to sell yourself as a candidate, and you haven't even spent 5 seconds looking at the company website or read the advert properly. If by the time you are contacted by somebody to arrange to speak to you, they don't just phone you out the blue, you haven't found 5 minutes to work out what the company does, what you'll be getting yourself into, then you're just going to come across as fairly clueless. And again, all of this stuff, every step of the way through a recruitment process, you are being assessed. After all, you do not want somebody to drop you at that point because you haven't spent 5 minutes. Also, why would you give up your time doing a phone interview with someone if you're not even sure you want the job? Unless you're desperate to pay the rent, obviously. It is where people fall down quite a lot. The people that have already said, even in that initial chat, this is what the company does, this is how long it's been going, I love the size of it, I've already worked out for myself that this is what I'm looking for. We're just thinking, great, you're through. As long as you turn up on the day and breathe and don't punch anyone, you've probably got the job.